to spoil the illusion for anybody, but a lot of what goes on at our state legislature is pointless. Debate over bills that were doomed to fail from the start, brought only for political posturing to make a point or to make an opponent uncomfortable come campaign time. Our politics guy, Brandon Ritteman, sifted through 150 bills introduced as this session starts, and he found a couple that are going to see real debate and have the potential for real impact.
One bill would take a whack at a big piece of the opioid epidemic in Colorado, placing a limit on how many pills doctors can prescribe. The idea is to make it harder for people to stock up on pills through doctor shopping.
There is no profile of a person who might be a doctor shopper.
Senate Bill 22 would make a 7-day prescription the statewide standard for opioid prescriptions and allow one 7-day refill if the doctor checks your name in the statewide database first. The bill makes exceptions for people, though, who've got chronic pain, cancer, post-op pain, or are in hospice care. Another bill would create a new type of Good Samaritan law in Colorado, a duty to call 911. House Bill 1059 is called Eric's Law, after Eric Ashby, who's presumed dead after falling into the Arkansas River last summer. His friends, if you can call them that, didn't call the authorities till 10 days later. Eric's Law would make that a crime, requiring you to call for help if someone needs it. Failing to do so would be a felony if that person dies, and a misdemeanor otherwise.
Why shouldn't we be able to know where they were transferred to?
Victims of crime and their families are the focus of Senate Bill 14, which aims to end the practice of moving prisoners out of state in secret. 9 Wants to Know documented more than 100 cases in which the Interstate Corrections Compact was used to move prisoners to new locations without telling victims where. The bill, with sponsors from both parties, would require notification within 48 hours of a prisoner transfer. The location could only be kept secret if the Department of Corrections declares a safety concern and the prosecutor agrees. The Las Vegas shooting is the reason behind a bill to ban bump stocks. These are devices that make semi-automatic weapons fire like fully automatics. We don't know how the politics might break down on this one. While we've seen Republicans criticize bump stocks on the national level, here in Colorado, the GOP still wants to undo the magazine limit that Democrats passed back in 2013. At the moment, SB 51 to ban bump stocks has only one Democrat as a sponsor. For Next, I'm Brandon Ritteman.
So back to this idea of our elected officials spending time on issues simply for symbolism. Tonight, the Denver City Council moves towards banning something it has already basically banned: bump stocks. Brandon mentioned that in the state-level debate. Denver already has a ban on what it defines as an assault weapon. Now, Council's talking about banning an attachment to those so-called assault weapons. It makes for positive press for progressive politicians in Denver as Congress avoids any kind of meaningful nationwide action on this topic. But short of providing a tagline for a future campaign ad, it's tough to see how that's going to make a ripple in an ocean of gun violence. Starting today, prepare to be solicited. You should be flattered. You're crucial to democracy. And by democracy, we mean the game that candidates have to play to get on the primary ballot in Colorado. So Girl Scouts will not be the only eager faces waiting for you outside the grocery store soon. Marshall Zellinger explains.
Candidate petitions look something like this, although these are copies of petitions that had fake signatures 2 years ago. Since I brought this to the state's attention, the law changed to give more scrutiny to the signatures that get turned in.
The goal is to be the first to submit your signatures, because if you get approved first, none of the signatures that you have submitted can be used by anybody else.
Dick Wadhams, and yes, that's his real signature, ran Jack Graham's campaign for Senate 2 years ago. His petitions were the only ones approved without the candidate having to go to court to convince a judge the signatures were legit.
It's a very expensive process. You've got to spend the money. You can't do it on the cheap.
Right now, 7 candidates for governor, 4 Republicans and 3 Democrats, have been approved to collect signatures over the next 63 days.
Every day of that 2-month period that we had to get signatures, I was obsessed with staying in touch with our firm that we hired to help us get those signatures.
Candidates running for statewide office, like governor, have to collect 1,500 signatures from each of the state's 7 congressional districts. Republican candidates have to get Republican voters to sign. Democratic candidates have to get Democrats.
Most people don't think about if they're a registered Republican or Democrat or unaffiliated. And so a lot of people just don't think about it, and so they sign when they shouldn't.
and someone's signature can only count for one candidate. So if Marshall Zellinger signs 2 petitions, which Marshall wouldn't because he's a journalist and he wouldn't even sign 1 petition, it could only count toward whoever turns the petitions in first, Kyle. And because of something I looked into 2 years ago, if you see something that looks like my signature, but it's really signed like Dick's signature, that will get extra scrutiny this year that hadn't got extra scrutiny before.
Oh, hey, that's good. Let's clean up the process, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Marshall. The publisher, the Denver Post, is out. One day after their new digital strategy, one day after we sat together here and I discussed why I hope that the Post finds the community support it needs as it tries to survive by charging online readers. Publisher Mac Tully's 4 years at the helm of the Post, ending today, have been marked by staff reductions, moving most of the newsroom outside of Denver, and now that online paywall. Your emails and social media comments last night and today indicate a good number of you are rooting for the demise of the Post because you love the Rocky, or because you don't like the paper's perceived political bias, or because of where some delivery boy threw it on your yard. As the person who is in charge of the Post leaves, I would ask you again whether Colorado values the local journalism that is done by the people who remain at the Post. Good people, smart people, ethical people. They are our quote-unquote competition here, but I think Colorado's a better place with a healthy Denver Post. And regardless of the pressures from that paper's hedge fund owners, I really hope their next publisher agrees. His name was all over the news, his photo too, and then they vanished, just like Jim Mitchell did. Our Noel Brennan went to Arvada to look at what happens when most people stop looking for a Coloradan who's disappeared.
Like bricks on the building.
There's your copy and there's that.
The faces inside American Legion Post 161.
A lot of them are in their 70s, 80s.
Are fixtures of the place. They stick around.
You want more tea?
Round after round.
Oh, I suppose I could, but I don't really need it.
Well, okay, whatever you want.
The lounge is where you'd find fixtures.
Jim was one of them.
Like Jim Mitchell.
He's been a member here at this post for 30 years.
He was the guy who'd volunteer to wash dishes.
Jim would almost do anything you asked him to do.
If he wasn't on the dance floor.
And he did love to dance.
He loved to dance. He was always playing the jukebox.
If we had music in there, he would be on the dance floor.
They miss him by that jukebox.
Oh, it's just so hard for everybody. Everybody here.
December 14th.
They found his truck up in Golden, and it looked like it ran into one of the boxcars.
Police, volunteers, dogs, and drones searched. No sign of Jim.
My heart dropped, you know, to like, what happened to Jim? What happened, you know?
It's been more than a month.
I still have some hope that they will find him, but not as much. He keeps going down and down and down and down.
Friends hope Saturday will bring closure.
It's not a memorial service. It's going to be a celebration of life. And I imagine we're going to have a lot of people here, too. Yeah, Jim had a lot of friends.
Fixtures, in their own right, will honor the one missing.
Personally, I don't think you could find a better group of people as you can find at this post.
For Next, I'm Noel Brennan.
Jim's friends know that the odds are against him, but they're hoping to at least get some answers. They're now raising money, hoping to hire a private investigator. Our next question comes from a viewer named Matt. I'd like to get an update on Boulder's plastic bag fee that started a few years ago. What was the amount of reduced plastic bag usage? How much money's been collected by the fee? Where's the revenue from the fee been spent? We have a whole bunch of answers gathered for you, Matt, but unless you brought something to carry them home in, that will be 10 cents. Boulder says it saw a whopping 70% drop in plastic bag use after it instituted the 10-cent fee back in 2013. The city has collected $1 million or so off of the fee, and it's paid for a reusable bag program, handing them out to folks who couldn't otherwise afford them. It's paid for marketing for that program, and a bunch of the rest of the money is going to go to upgrade Boulder's recycling center so that plastic bags that are thrown away can get hauled out of the mix. It shouldn't take our investigative team to try and figure out how many Hamilton tickets will be available to the public after the pre-sale, but that's what it took today. Denver leads America with a shift in how we drink beer. It's all about where we choose to drink. And the most Colorado thing we saw today, a guy who didn't go to the mountains to ski. Next. Good luck getting a ticket to one of the biggest Broadway shows to ever visit Denver. Hamilton goes on sale to us regular people next week. Jeremy Hohola from our investigative team, he's the inquisitive sort, and he had what seemed a simple question. How many tickets are available?
On Monday, Hamilton tickets go on sale for the general public. But right now, pre-sale is happening only for subscribers of Broadway shows at the Denver Center for Performing Arts. They're like season ticket holders. So how many tickets does the DCPA set aside for pre-sale? And how much is the public left clamoring for this coming Monday? 80% of available tickets? 50%? 20%? We don't know, and we can't tell you. Why? The DCPA actually keeps that a secret. The DCPA says they never release how many tickets they set aside for pre-sale. So you should know when you take your shot at a purchase for a ticket this coming Monday, the whole Hamilton pie is not available.
In our search for numbers, the DCPA would say about 11,000 subscriber accounts were eligible to take a chance at pre-sale tickets, but not everyone on that list is guaranteed a ticket. Still not an answer to our question and yours. Pre-sale goes through Thursday night. We are curious about your experience with the process. Loop us in with the hashtag HeyNext.
Meteorologist Kathy Saban. Clear and cold in downtown Denver, but not nearly as cold as last night. Our low this morning, -4. Bracing for the next storm system heading our way from the west, a storm that's produced winter weather and travel advisories in the Sierras. That means snow for our mountains on Saturday. Meantime, yesterday's storm creating a wintry mix across southern Texas up through the Carolinas, and quite the ice storm with wind chill advisories in play. Mild, dry weather will be something we'll be enjoying for about 2, maybe 3 days ahead of the next storm and the next chance for cold and snow, and that will be on Saturday. So around here tonight with fair skies and light winds, temperatures chilly, yes, but not nearly as cold as last night. We'll rebound nicely with winds out of the southwest. We'll go 10 degrees above average into the mid-50s. And as we move through Thursday and Friday, temperatures in the mid-60s. Colder weather for the weekend with a chance for light snow on Saturday. And just beautiful conditions this evening up at Keystone. Kyle.
If you think text notifications about President Trump's troubles are wild, you should see what they would have looked like under Nixon. Denver's bars have lost more than 1/3 of their business. How'd that happen in a beer-loving city? Then it's back to Denver's favorite sledding hill and the hazard we named the Decapitator. The city has a new solution this year. Next. I can't be the only history geek who stops or slows down to read every roadside plaque, and there is a new one in Jefferson County. It marks the spot where Arapahoe City became the first town in those parts, mining camp in 1858. Not noted on the plaque is the day in 2015 when somebody stole the original plaque. It's never been found or returned, but a replacement once again marks the site of Arapahoe City. Few organizations fundraised to make this happen, to replace the plaque that was installed in the 1940s and stood for several decades while people were still decent. May I make a recommendation? Point you towards something that did not come from us but is worth a few minutes of your time. You know how we all wake up to a string of text alerts on our phones in the morning? The New York Times has looked at what it would have been like to wake up to text alerts 50 years ago. In 1968, that of course was a landmark year of news. You would have read about the Green Bay Packers beating Oakland to win the Super Bowl, the Viet Cong's attacks on 7 cities during the Vietnamese New Year. You would have read of Martin Luther King being killed in Memphis. Another alert about Senator Robert F. Kennedy, assassinated after winning the primary in California. And then an alert telling you that Nixon had been elected president. You can read a link to this story on the next section of 9news.com. Coors. The people in the business of beer are worried about where us Denverites are doing our drinking. Coors' own research found that in Denver, more than anywhere else in America, people are bypassing the corner bar where Coors Light flows like a mountain stream, and they're going instead to craft breweries and tap rooms. Miller Coors has been watching us drink like it's their job. Because it is. And they found that bars across America are losing 9% of their traffic to breweries and tap rooms. That rate doubles in Minneapolis, Seattle, triples in Portland and San Diego. Nowhere in America did Miller Coors find more people skipping the corner bar to pick up a locally produced pint than here in Denver. They estimate bars in Denver have lost more than a third of their business. The mega brewer found the shift to breweries and tap rooms is also changing the way we drink. People are going out earlier in the day. They're headed home earlier as well, some skipping the bar entirely. Miller Coors calls it troublesome. Denver calls it delicious. Do you remember the Ruby Hill sledding hazard, the decapitator? The city of Denver really loved it when we talked about that here last year. Guess what's back? The most Colorado thing we saw today, just a couple dudes out skiing at Ruby Hill in Denver because the conditions aren't that great in the mountains, so these guys drove down from Erie to get in their fix before work in Denver.
I don't think you need ideal conditions to have fun, because we're out here having a blast right now.
It's so icy, dude. I have an ice burn on my knee so bad. It's pretty chilly for sure, but I mean, when you're hiking back up and down this mountain, you tend to get pretty sweaty and warm real quick.
Most of the snow is real icy right now.
Very, very icy conditions. Kind of like one big ice sheet, honestly.
It maybe have like a little dusting, but other than that, you're sliding all over.
I don't know if you can take a look down there, but it's like completely ice.
But other than that, the setup's awesome.
Yeah! Whether or not the snow is good, I think it's a blast.
Me and my friends, we just can go out, find a couple of rails, have some fun, and it doesn't really matter.
The last 2 years were amazing. We had a lot of snow. You know, by this time last year, Vail was completely open, Keystone was completely open, and you know, now you're looking at 40 trails open out of 120, I think, at Keystone, and it's too bad that, you know, we're not getting the snow we want. But I mean, you got to make the most out of what you got, for sure.
So last year, when Next was first on the air and government officials were trying to figure out whether they should take us and you at home seriously, a viewer pointed out that Ruby Hill had a pointy new problem, a new fence smack dab at the bottom of the hill where people were likely to smack dab into it. We nicknamed the fence the Decapitator, so the city put up that softer plastic fence for the kids to slam into. Well, the Decapitator is back, but hey, bales. It's an ingenious impact softening solution, Denver. That is, if there ever is enough snow for kids to go sledding at Ruby Hill this year. Look how brown and sad that looks. Man, I am telling you, that is bad news. Oh, those poor kids out there trying to make the best of it today. Hope for snow, everybody. Shirley Carnahan provides us with our first feedback tonight, saying you nailed it when you said TV journalism benefits from healthy competition with print journalism. In fact, Shirley, they're pretty much just one and the same these days. We are in the news business, and I really wish that local journalists especially would see each other less as competitors and more as collaborators as we try to bring you good information. Audrey Reyes writes in, love the show, keep it up. What's up with the hair tonight? Audrey, I've had the same haircut since roughly 8th grade. I hope that nothing has changed. Sadie Slaybaugh writes in and says the show's awesome. Feel like you're part of a dying breed, the unbiased anchorman. Sadie, every human has bias. We try to identify ours and fight to keep it off the show on a nightly basis. You can let us know if we succeed or fail next time.